Hello everyone and welcome to the Young and the Restless channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The tension begins to coil the moment the plan takes shape, quiet yet deeply unsettling, as Matt Clark sets his sights on his next move with chilling precision. There is nothing rushed about the way he operates now. Every step feels calculated, deliberate, as though he has been waiting for this exact moment to strike. Once he finally confirms where Nick Newman is staying, a dark resolve settles over him, and without hesitation, he makes his way to that very room. The air itself seems heavier as he slips inside, moving like a shadow, blending into the silence as he prepares his trap. He doesn't just wait. He watches, listens, anticipates, turning the space into a stage for something far more dangerous than a simple confrontation. Hidden just out of sight, Matt positions himself behind the door, his breathing steady, his mind fixed on the perfect moment. It's not just revenge driving him anymore. It's something colder, something far more calculated, as he readies himself for what comes next. Meanwhile, unaware of the storm waiting just beyond the threshold, Nick approaches his room with a growing sense of unease, as if instinct itself is trying to warn him. The moment he steps inside, something feels off, and his eyes instinctively scan the space, searching for anything out of place. But before he can fully process the danger, the trap is already closing in around him. With his back turned for just a fraction too long, Matt seizes his opportunity, striking with sudden, overwhelming force. The attack is swift and ruthless, leaving Nick little chance to defend himself as control slips through his fingers in an instant. There's a terrifying possibility that Matt doesn't stop there, that he might force a bag over Nick's head, cutting off his ability to see, to breathe, to fight back. And then comes the darker implication, the one that lingers like a shadow over everything. Nick may be drugged, his consciousness fading as Matt prepares to move him somewhere else entirely, setting the stage for a crime he never committed. This isn't the first time Matt has twisted reality to destroy Nick's life, and that history makes the situation all the more chilling. Longtime fans of The Young and the Restless will remember the horrifying lengths Matt once went to when he tore out his own breathing tube in a hospital room and planted it in Nick's hand, framing him in a way so cruel it led straight to prison. That memory now echoes like a warning of just how far Matt is willing to go, and it becomes painfully clear that he may have something even more sinister in mind this time. This isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about destruction, about ruining lives in ways that can't easily be undone. And as the pieces begin to fall into place, it's impossible to ignore the growing sense that Nick is only one part of a much larger, far more dangerous scheme. As the plan expands, the danger spreads beyond Nick alone, reaching toward Adam Newman in a way that feels just as calculated and just as cruel. Matt could easily ensure that Adam unknowingly consumes a drugged drink, slipping something into his system while he's distracted, pulling him into the nightmare without him even realizing it. The thought alone adds another layer of tension, another thread in a web that is tightening with every passing moment. And once both brothers are under his control, the true horror of Matt's plan begins to reveal itself. There is a chilling possibility that he intends to place them together in a single room, not alone, but with something far worse waiting for them. A lifeless body that changes everything. At the center of this unfolding nightmare is Riza, whose fate may already be sealed in the most tragic way imaginable. If Matt has indeed decided to punish her for her betrayal with Spider, then her death could become the cornerstone of his entire scheme. The idea that he might have already taken her life is as shocking as it is devastating, turning what was once a complicated betrayal into a point of no return. And in a move as cold as it is calculated, he could position both Nick and Adam beside her body, ensuring that every piece of evidence points directly at them. It's the kind of setup that leaves no room for doubt, no easy way out, trapping them in a nightmare where the truth is buried beneath carefully planted lies. When Nick and Adam finally regain consciousness, the horror of the situation would hit them all at once, crashing down like a wave they never saw coming. Confusion would give way to panic as they take in their surroundings, realizing too late that they've been placed at the center of something they don't understand. The weight of the evidence against them could feel suffocating, each detail crafted to make their guilt seem undeniable. And in that moment, the fear wouldn't just be about what has happened, it would be about what comes next, about the very real possibility that they could be held responsible for Riza's grim fate. With no clear way to prove their innocence, the pressure would mount, forcing them into a desperate race against time to uncover the truth before it's too late. Of course, Matt's plan may not follow a single path, and that uncertainty only deepens the tension surrounding everything that's about to unfold. It's entirely possible that he could choose to frame Adam alone, isolating him as the sole target while keeping separate, darker plans in motion for Nick. Either way, the outcome remains just as dangerous, just as devastating, with lives hanging in the balance and the truth slipping further out of reach. The mere possibility that Riza may already be gone adds an irreversible weight to the situation, turning this into something far more than just another scheme. And as Matt moves forward with his plan, it becomes painfully clear that he still has more tricks waiting in the shadows, more twists that could shatter everything in an instant. The story is far from over, and with every passing moment, the darkness surrounding it only seems to grow deeper, pulling everyone involved closer to a fate they may not be able to escape. The darkness doesn't lift when the pieces fall into place. It deepens, thickens, until it feels almost impossible to breathe within the weight of what Matt has set in motion. Time moves differently now, stretching into something slow and suffocating as the consequences of his actions begin to ripple outward. Somewhere in that carefully orchestrated nightmare, Nick Newman remains trapped in the aftermath of an attack he never saw coming, his fate hanging in a fragile balance between survival and whatever twisted endgame Matt has prepared. There is a cruel precision to it all, a sense that every second has been accounted for, every reaction anticipated before it even happens. And as the silence lingers, broken only by the faint echoes of what has already been done, it becomes clear that Matt isn't just relying on chaos, he's relying on control. He wants confusion, yes, but only the kind he can manipulate, the kind that leads his victims exactly where he wants them to go. And for Nick, that path may already be closing in from all sides, tightening like a noose he cannot see. At the same time, far from understanding the danger closing in on him, Adam Newman may already be stepping into the next phase of the plan without realizing it. There's something especially sinister about the simplicity of it. A drink, a moment of distraction, a quiet lapse in awareness that costs him everything. If Matt has indeed tampered with what Adam consumes, then the betrayal begins from within, seeping through his system before he even has the chance to question it. The world around him could begin to blur, sounds fading into distortion as his strength slips away, leaving him vulnerable in the most devastating way. And just like that, another piece is in place, another life pulled into a web that was spun long before either of them knew they were in danger. It's not loud or dramatic in the moment. It's quiet, almost invisible, but that's exactly what makes it so terrifying. And then comes the moment where everything converges, where the threads Matt has been pulling finally knot together into something horrifyingly real. In a room that feels more like a trap than a place, Nick and Adam could awaken side by side, their senses clouded, their memories fractured, struggling to understand how they got there. The air itself might feel wrong, heavy with something unspoken, something they can't yet fully grasp. And then, slowly, the truth begins to reveal itself in the worst possible way. There, before them, is Riza, motionless, lifeless, the final and most devastating piece of Matt's plan laid out with horrifying clarity. The shock wouldn't come all at once. It would creep in, second by second, until it hits with a force that leaves them reeling, struggling to breathe under the weight of what they're seeing. Panic would follow quickly, raw and uncontrollable, as realization sets in that they are not just witnesses to a tragedy, they are being positioned as the cause of it. Every instinct would scream that something is wrong, that this is a setup. But instinct alone isn't enough to save them. The evidence, carefully planted and impossibly damning, could surround them like a cage, each detail pointing toward their guilt with terrifying certainty. In that moment, the truth becomes something distant, something buried beneath layers of deception that Matt has so carefully constructed. And as the reality of their situation sinks in, a new fear takes hold. Not just of being accused, but of being believed to be guilty, of losing everything to a lie they can't yet prove. It's a nightmare that feels all too real, one where the line between innocence and condemnation has been deliberately erased. Yet, even within that suffocating despair, there is a flicker of resistance, a desperate need to fight back against a narrative that has been forced upon them. Both Nick and Adam would know, deep down, that they cannot afford to give in, that survival now depends not just on escaping the situation, but on unraveling the truth behind it. Every second counts, every detail matters, because somewhere within the chaos lies the key to exposing Matt's scheme. But the clock is already ticking, and with each passing moment, the risk of being permanently trapped in his web grows stronger. The world outside that room won't see what really happened. They'll only see what Matt wants them to see. And that's what makes his plan so dangerous, so devastatingly effective. Still, the uncertainty surrounding Matt's next move lingers like a shadow that refuses to fade. Perhaps this is only one version of his plan, one path among many that all lead to destruction. There's a chance he may choose to isolate Adam, placing the full weight of the crime on his shoulders while reserving something even darker for Nick elsewhere. Or perhaps this shared nightmare is exactly what he wants, to watch both brothers fall together, their bond turned into a weakness that can be exploited and destroyed. Either way, the outcome remains chillingly unpredictable, shaped entirely by Matt's willingness to go further than anyone expects. And as the story continues to unfold, one thing becomes painfully clear. This is far from over, because Matt Clark is not finished, not yet, not even close. The quiet, calculated menace that defines him suggests there are still layers to his plan waiting to be revealed, still moves to be made that could change everything in an instant. The fallout from this could reach far beyond what anyone anticipates, pulling more lives into the chaos, leaving lasting scars that won't easily heal. And as the tension builds toward whatever comes next, the sense of dread only grows stronger, settling in like an unshakable truth. In a world where deception has been crafted so perfectly, where innocence can be turned into guilt with a single calculated move, escaping the trap may require more than just luck. It may require a fight unlike anything they've ever faced before. And just when it feels like the nightmare has reached its peak, the story tightens its grip even further, pulling every character deeper into a web that refuses to loosen. The aftermath of Matt's carefully staged horror doesn't unfold in silence. It spreads, quietly at first, then with growing intensity, as suspicion begins to ripple outward into the world beyond that room. For Nick Newman and Adam Newman, the realization that they are being framed is no longer just a fear. It becomes a crushing reality that threatens to consume everything they are. Every glance they exchange carries a mixture of disbelief and urgency as they struggle to piece together fragments of memory that feel incomplete and unreliable. Their minds race, trying to reconstruct the moments leading up to this, searching desperately for anything that could prove they were manipulated. But the more they think, the more they realize how perfectly Matt has erased the truth, leaving behind only confusion and carefully planted lies. It's not just a trap, it's a prison built on perception, one that could hold them indefinitely if they don't find a way to break it. Outside of that suffocating space, the consequences begin to take shape in ways neither of them can control. If Matt has done his job well, and all signs suggest he has, then the evidence won't just suggest guilt, it will scream it. Authorities, investigators, anyone who steps into the scene would see a narrative that appears airtight, a sequence of events that points directly at Nick and Adam with terrifying clarity. And that's where the true danger lies. Because once the world starts to believe a story, it becomes exponentially harder to rewrite it. The weight of accusation doesn't just threaten their freedom, it threatens their identities, their reputations, everything they've built over time. And somewhere in the shadows, Matt watches it all unfold, knowing that every reaction, every misstep only strengthens the illusion he has created. He doesn't need to be present to control the outcome anymore. The trap is already doing the work for him. Yet, even as the walls close in, there is something in both brothers that refuses to collapse under the pressure. For Nick, there's a growing anger beneath the fear, a determination that refuses to let history repeat itself the way it once did. He has been through Matt's twisted games before, and that memory, painful as it is, becomes a spark that fuels his resolve. He knows exactly what kind of enemy they are dealing with, and that knowledge becomes both a burden and a weapon. For Adam, the fight takes on a slightly different shape, driven by a sharp awareness that survival now depends on thinking faster, seeing through the deception before it fully locks into place. Together, despite their complicated past, they may begin to realize that their only chance lies in trusting each other, in forming an uneasy alliance against a common enemy who has already proven he will stop at nothing. And in that fragile unity, there is the faintest glimmer of hope. But hope alone isn't enough when the odds are stacked this heavily and the danger continues to evolve with every passing moment. The truth about Riza becomes a haunting presence that refuses to fade, her fate casting a long shadow over everything that follows. If Matt truly ended her life to serve his plan, then this is no longer just a scheme. It's something far darker, far more irreversible. And that raises an even more terrifying question. If he was willing to go that far once, what's stopping him from doing it again? The unpredictability of his next move becomes a constant threat, lingering just beneath the surface of every decision Nick and Adam make. Every second they spend trying to prove their innocence is a second Matt could be using to escalate things even further, tightening his grip in ways they haven't even begun to anticipate. As the story moves forward, the tension builds toward an inevitable confrontation, one that feels both necessary and dangerously uncertain. Matt Clark is not the kind of enemy who makes mistakes easily, and bringing him down will require more than just uncovering the truth. It will require exposing him in a way that cannot be ignored. That means finding the cracks in his plan, the one detail he may have overlooked, the one thread that can unravel everything. But finding that thread won't be easy, not when he has already accounted for so many possibilities. And yet, the possibility remains. flickering just out of reach, waiting for the right moment to be discovered. In the end, what makes this unfolding drama so gripping isn't just the danger or the deception, it's the human struggle at the center of it all. Two men fighting not just for their freedom but for their truth against an enemy who has turned lies into something almost indistinguishable from reality. The road ahead is uncertain, filled with twists that could change everything in an instant. But one thing is undeniable: the fight is far from over. And as the shadows deepen and the stakes rise higher than ever before, the question that lingers isn't just whether Nick and Adam can prove their innocence, it's whether they can survive long enough to even try.